How can we become an optimal partner for a 10x relationship? And I think one of the paradoxes about it is that being in relationship is the fastest path to being in an optimal relationship. And so, while the ways to be in a relationship are good to think about as we enter in a relationship so as not to repeat and exacerbate childhood trauma, among other things, as we look at what is an optimal partner and how to measure what that looks like and how to become that way, to prepare for a 10x relationship, we're also in this paradoxical dance where everything that we do with excellence takes an extraordinary amount of practice. And so I think one of the best things that we can do as relationship partners is to establish the paradigm of a relationship practice, something that you do together and seek to do together to become excellent, to be on a journey, on a path, so that whether the relationship that you are in blossoms into a 10x relationship slowly and together with time, or whether the relationship that you're in begins, goes as far as it can, and ends well, so that you can begin the next relationship a little bit further and take it a little bit further, so that you can begin the next relationship and take it a little bit further, so that you can become someone capable of facilitating, of partnering in a 10x relationship. So, what are some of the things that make you a 10x partner that you want to actively cultivate, both within and without the framework of a relationship? Meaning when you're single or preparing to enter a relationship, things that you can develop on your own. When you're in relationship, things that you can practice. When you're seeking a relationship partner, that you seek someone who you can practice these skills and abilities with. So, number one, you want to be trauma literate. And there's no better book that I know than The Body Keeps the Score, which I happen to have here for some videos I'm making on trauma. It's a fabulous landscape about culture, about denial, about cultural bias, about abuse, about stupidity, and about the symptoms and things that we can do to understand when trauma is present in ourselves or in a partner, and how to respond. It's a very unique technology. In that same vein, When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate, The Body Never Lies by Alice Miller, Healing Trauma by Peter Levine. These are a couple of the books that can prepare us to be an exceptional relationship partner, trauma literate. Another key metric is conscious of the sensitivity continuum in any relationship. Now, Dr. Elaine Aron has unearthed a biological distinction between certain mammalian species that relates to 10 to 20% of certain mammal groups, including humans. And in this minority, responsiveness is exaggerated significantly, and we call it sensitivity. And it doesn't always show up in the same way for each person. Some people can be sensitive to emotion. Some people can be incredibly imaginative, even psychic. Some people can, like my body, this is the pen of the Note 9 that I'm using to control, and start the camera. If I hold this pen for more than a few seconds, I start feeling a buzzing in my fingers. So I don't hold it. I put it over here. Radio waves decrease by the square of the distance, and so, a couple of feet away, it's dozens of times less impactful than it is when I'm holding it. But I feel it in my joints. So it's a, in this case, a sensitivity to the radio waves produced on the Bluetooth frequency. Now, and it's important to make these distinctions and to have a conversation, to know where you are sensitive and where you're not, where you're responsive and where you're not, to what degree, and to know where your partner is sensitive and where they're not. But the biggest thing that's important in this is something you can know right now, which is that every person has their own point on the sensitivity continuum, on the stimulation continuum. And it's critical to understand this. So look at the book. There's a book called Quiet that can fill you in on a lot of this, and The Highly Sensitive Person. So these two things, we're already looking at a 5 to 50% improvement in relationship. In other words, if you master sensitivity and you master trauma to a level where you can support your partner when they are traumatized and triggered, where you can detect their trauma, where they have aspects of PTSD, and coach them how to do that well for you, and ask them how to help you do that for them. If you can do that and do it well, you're looking at a good 75% improvement in the typical relationship, and we're aiming to get to 1,000% improvement. That's a 10x relationship. So next you have the 5 love languages. I think it's Gary, I forget the name, but it's a good book. If you know your love language is a language, things will generally improve about 20%, particularly in new relationships, which you may need to go through a few in order to find a good match and find a partner that's actually interested in a 10x relationship. This may be quite a challenge. So the 5 love languages. Know what your love language is and know how to ask what your partner's love language is. But I want to take you to another level on this, which is the art of scripting. And the premise for this can begin with the awareness of the wave-particle dynamic. So at the subatomic level, energy migrates from wave to particle. And there's these paradoxical phenomena where you look at energy through this lens and it's a particle, and you look through this lens and it's a wave. So what this speaks to is the fact that every feminine energy has a masculine component, and every masculine energy has a feminine component. And, in the yin-yang symbol they show the little dots of the opposite, and that's partly what this speaks to. So looking at that same phenomena from another angle, love has a feeling, has an energy, and it has a form. And so you can relate to love as either a feeling or an energy, or as a form. And another way of looking at that is that there is a form, there is a shape, there is a structure that, if it is followed, much like a recipe, that you will feel deeply and fully loved. So, you love, French toast with Grand Marnier, or whatever it is, some delicious dish. There's the feeling, there's the love of the dish, and there is a specific recipe and ritual that induces the dish. The feeling of exquisite delight, eating this dish, tasting, smelling, seeing this dish, is the feminine side, the feminine component of the dish. The feeling of cooking and preparing and the anticipation is the feminine energetic component, the emotional component. But the doing, the turning on the flame, the whipping of the eggs, the choice of the eggs from this animal and not this animal, the toast, the choice of the toast, how it's sliced, is there cinnamon, the bit of salt, the butter, the maple syrup? This is the masculine component of the experience. And very few human beings in our culture have regular experiences of feeling completely and totally loved. Why? Because while we'll teach German auto mechanics how to precisely cut and carve and design an engine, while we will hammer away learning 60 words a minute typing, while we may teach a chemist how to manufacture millions of tablets of completely simpatico aspirin, we do not teach a man and a woman how to create, the art of creating, complete and total love. Now, one of the reasons aspirin is a little bit easier to manufacture or create as a recipe is it's not as personal. Meaning, the thing that someone has to do to make you feel completely and totally loved is unique. It is a unique recipe for you. Now, what this means is that if you don't figure it out, the odds of anyone else figuring it out are close to zero. Meaning there are people who live and die, married for 50 years, in and out of hundreds of relationships, dozens of sexual partners, whatever it is. There are people in our culture who are born, grow up, live, and die without ever having an experience that they consider, not 1 minute, that they consider an experience of being completely and totally loved. And there's others of us, I would say most people have it for a few seconds to a few minutes. I've spent time with 100 women or so, and many of them quite lovely and nice, and many of them interested in personal growth. And I would say that if you've got some compatibility and making an effort, etc., that it's not uncommon to experience a few seconds, a few minutes of complete and total love. But it's very rare. And so here's what you can do to facilitate this probability field. First of all, take ownership of it. It's not going to happen by accident, and certainly not in a sustained state by accident. It's not within the cultural probability field, is another way to put it. Meaning, if you follow Western culture, the odds of you having sustainable feelings of feeling completely loved are close to zero. How do you know that? Well, you just interview 100 people in Western culture and find out how many of them are feeling completely and totally loved most of the time. Well, what we want to do here is, have a tenfold increase. Depending on how you define love, we're not talking about, eliminating grief. We're not talking about eliminating pain. We're not talking about everything being perfect. But we are talking about consciously curating an energy and a feeling out of moments. And we're going to lead with the masculine in this because we're a masculine culture, and it's a lot easier, is another way to look at it. It's a lot easier to give a detailed recipe for making French toast or crepe Suzette, and then a certain number of people, a certain amount of the time, are going to feel in heaven, than it is to coach people just like feel in heaven. Now, you do have those two poles, and it's good to work from both angles. So you have the master the recipe of the dish that elicits the pleasurable feeling. That's working through the masculine. And then you have the opening to the feeling without changing anything, or opening to the feeling and letting the feeling motivate what is changed. So this is the feminine pole. Now, they're both great ideas. However, as masculine as we are, the one area that we neglect in all of our specificity, etc., is the list of creating complete and total love. Now, here's what you can do to do your partner a great favor. I want you to write 30 things that make you feel completely and totally loved. Now, the way that you do this is, you make your 30 points, and then you describe 30 different things that your partner or any partner can do that will make you feel more loved. In fact, let's make it 40 things. Why not? Let's make it 40 things. So what might this be? For example, I love pastel flowers. I just love it. And I like gold. Pastel, gold, flowers, nature. I love it. I love things being wrapped with care. So those pastel tissue papers with kind of a white on a pink or a purple, where you see the thing showing out, like a purple ribbon, a nice gold piece, So once I know this, I can then create recipes out of this. So I can say, number one, if you give me a hand-painted card with pastel colors, with a natural motif, or if you buy me a card, and let's see, I'd like some dark chocolate truffles. Now, I have milk allergies, so no milk. Dark chocolate truffles, preferably organic, with a bit of liqueur. Okay, so in a tissue box, some dark truffles, a greeting card, pastel colors. I'd like, maybe some white and purple, some gold, curly ribbons. And I'd like you to tell me in the card, I'd like you to tell me things that touch you about me. Like this touches you about me, about kind of my being. Let me know that you see me. And I want to have a feeling of abundance around that. So list at least 7 things that you see and feel about me. And these delicious chocolates. And that is a 10 for me. So that's number 1. So what that means is that you have a compass, meaning you're not bound to it, but you do have a script, and of course it'll be different. Your chocolates will be different than this person's chocolates, than this person's chocolates. I'm going to feel differently on every day. The one person's going to put the purple tissue paper on the outside and the white and this and different size boxes, and all of that is completely unique. And there are literally millions of pastel color nature scenes, and some will hand do and do it. There's an infinite variety within this recipe. But one of the interesting things about this recipe for me that ties in with what brings it to an elevated level of that 10 is, you may notice there's a lot of specificity in that. And this serves a very particular purpose in my psychology. Meaning I grew up with 2 parents who didn't want to see me, who were afraid of seeing me, who went to great lengths not to see certain things. And of course, naturally, when you're isolated, as we were to a large extent growing up, when your primary relationships have a lot of masks that make sure that you can't see them and they can't see you, there's a certain wound around being invisible. Well, what I've noticed is that more important than the gift, meaning so we've got, remember that balance between the masculine and feminine, the outer and the inner. So the outer gift someone gives me if they pick that one of my list of 40 ways that I could be completely and fully loved. The outer gift is the card, the chocolates, the box, the packing, right? So that's the outer gift. But you see, with every outer gift comes an inner gift. And the inner gift that someone who does that, and it's happened several times in my life where someone has really asked and they've really listened and they've given it to me, and I feel seen. Because when someone listens to every one of those nuances, they are giving me a gift that is priceless. And they are giving me a gift that is much bigger than the card or the chocolate or the box or the crepe paper. What they are giving me is the message, I see you. I pay attention to every detail. What's important to you is important to me. I care about you, and that's why I pay attention. Now, that's the gift I receive. That's the feeling I have. And this balms a wound. But it also, it's the antithesis. It's a real joy, because when someone shows up that way, it tells me all kinds of exciting other ways that we can show up, because that level of respect, that level of attention to detail is a trait that can be built upon. So I have the excitement of the gift, the healing of the wound, the excitement of the energy, and the excitement of my conscious awareness that this is a person that can go far. You know, when you're in a fighter jet, flying at faster than the speed of sound, when you're in a fighter jet, you can only afford to go that fast if every little nuance is in total control. I mixed that one. I forgot. I forgot to push I forgot the landing gear. Won't happen again. No, because you're dead. You see, the more attuned a person is, the more precise their awareness, the more excellence is brought into the relationship, the faster you can move without crashing, without being irresponsible. Because it's irresponsible to put someone negligent, absent-minded, in a fighter jet, when half a second is the difference between their death and their life, is the difference between a $200 million plane or an explosion and an environmental disaster. The sharper the skill, the sharper the attunement, the more important it is. Well, the greater the capacity, the farther you can go. And so I receive that. I understand that. I understand the way brains work. And so I get that in that message. Yes. If you take this level of attention to detail and start applying it here and here and here, we can go far. And that's beautiful. It's exciting. And that's what makes it a 10. All right, now, I would not suggest, well, I've never met the woman, and by extrapolation, the man, that can make this 40-part list easily. So I suggest you lead. You create your list, and what you want to do is create enough detail that your partner can't fail. Because there's two ways to look at anything along these lines. You could say, wow, what a demanding, picky thing. I don't want to be demanding and picky. But that's not the way to look at this. The way to look at this is, wow, I care enough about my partner that I want them to win. Now, this is particularly true if you're a woman engaging with a man. Men love to win. Now, if you say, buy me something nice or do something nice, but secretly you have some picture of, oh, I kind of see these colors and these, wouldn't it be nice if that happened? It'd be nice if he surprised me with this. And so you have your kind of like 10 different things in your mind, and all of those would be great. And what you're hoping is that he's going to do one of those things in the way and in the time that you like. Good luck with that. When you're kind, you figure it out. The smells, the taste, the timing. If there's money involved, the price, who pays for what. You figure out the recipe in graphic detail like a film script. And the reason you have a 40-item list is because I guarantee you there are going to be things on your list that your partner is never going to want to do. Certainly if they're honest with them, what they like and all that, because they're not you. In my limited experience, because so few people show up in this way, but there have been maybe 10 different women we've made these lists together. Maybe 15 or 20, but somewhere in that range, 10 to 20 women, where we've made this list together of ways to help each other feel completely and totally loved. I've always led because they've found it easier. Like if I just ask a woman point blank, what's your list? It's kind of like, I don't know. Okay, well, think about it, and I don't know, it's a big list. So if I give her my list, or if we take a ritual of taking turns, usually she'll get ideas from my list. She's more comfortable doing a counterpoint. So I'll say the card thing, and then that gives her an idea, to share a gift that she would like, or a different kind of card, or something else. And so that's maybe how it is. And this is one of the reasons, I want to encourage you to develop this, to lead, so that you can lead someone who otherwise doesn't know how to do this into this terrain. And in doing so, increase the odds of you both feeling loved by at least 500%. So you create a list of 40 items, and in my experience, here's what's going to happen. You've got your 40-item list, you've got their 40-item list. And there's going to be about a third of it that as you read it to your partner, they light up. It's like, oh, I can do that, and I like doing that. And you're going to give them a copy of the list. So that's a great fit. There's going to be about 30% in my experience of that. And then there's going to be about 30% that's like, well, I guess I could do that. And if it's really important to you, I will do it. Wow, you like foot massage as a 10 out of 10. Okay, well, I don't particularly enjoy that. I like receiving them. I don't particularly enjoy that. But because you like them so much, and because I want to make you happy, I'm going to do that from time to time, and I'll refer to your list and remind, okay, foot massage for you. And you want to spell things out, like, what's the length? So if someone gives you a 2-minute foot massage and you say, oh, that's cheap, that's ripped me off, that's disappointing, well, it's not obviously making you feel completely and totally loved. So, a foot massage of this type, you can demonstrate in the feet, etc., and this type for 30 or more minutes. And I will feel a 7.5 on my 1 to 10 scale of complete and total love. So anytime you want to give me a boost in the love, foot massage, 30 minutes or longer of this type. So, that, or surprise me with a foot massage. Don't make me ask, and that brings it up to an 8.5. Because, it's always, oh, you have to, I want someone to massage me when they want to. So that's, so you go down, there's going to be a third that they want to do to please you and can do. And then there's going to be about a third where it's like, I get that you want that, but that's just not me. I can't do it, or I feel crappy doing it, so I'm probably not going to do that. That's fine. You've got 20 items or more that are going to work on that list. 10 or 15, solid, that are great, and then others that you can do from time to time. Well, the same is going to be generally true in reverse. And so now you've got 80 items, out of which you've culled maybe 40 ways to consciously increase and and match the amount of love that you feel. And you can check in along the way and say, how was that? How was that? How's that? And so combined with the 5 love languages, this sets you off on a terrific trajectory to maximizing the feeling of love for both of you.